Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Since I did my last show, the attention of the entire world is still on Afghanistan. The bombings, the loss of lives, the chaos, the disastrous incompetence, all are exposed in front of everyone. Then yesterday, the CCP's mouthpiece, need to switch off my phone. Then yesterday, the CCP's mouthpiece happily announced that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken talked over the phone about Afghanistan. And my question is, will the U.S. go back to the days when, in order to fight terrorism, the U.S. had to work with the CCP? Who is really the world's biggest terrorist anyway? Today, I'd like to talk about these questions. First of all, let's watch a speech made by a famous scholar in China. He was making comments on the recent events in Afghanistan and how America is in decline. He talked for about 50 minutes on his own YouTube channel, and this is only some experts. Please note that the speaker is not a nobody. He has a PhD degree from the University of Illinois and has been a professor and a research director at several top Chinese universities.
因为我是个学文的，我也不懂这伊朗人咋就这么笨，说是吧？你看朝鲜呀、巴基斯坦啊、印度啊，大家都把原子弹炸得一塌糊涂，他就连一个也炸不响。说这个事情。 你现在绑了2个加拿大的人是远远不够的，远远不够的，再绑8个，赶快绑，尽快绑！你敢把孟晚舟往美国送一步，这10个人肯定人头落地。你敢把老子一个人送出去，老子杀你10个！要学习毛主席的霸气嘛，要学习毛主席的霸气嘛。刚才说是赵薇这种人要把他抓光啊，你还抓一个？ 抓他300个嘛，你还抓什么一个？你把全国的挨筛子一个一个筛，全抓去了，一定要大清洗。
Have you heard about what he said? He blamed Iran for not being able to blow up just one atomic bomb. He said the CCP should kidnap 8 more Canadians and kill all 10 if Canada dares to send Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou to the US. He encouraged the CCP to do a big purge. People like Vikki Zhao should all be arrested, etc. By the way, Vikki Zhao is a very famous movie star in China. I'll talk about her story in a bit. Aren't all these statements made by Li Yi that of an extreme terrorist? Yet Li Yi's videos stay safe on YouTube, while my videos sometimes get removed or limited by YouTube, a US company. And Li Yi has so many supporters. The top comment says the Meng Wanzhou incident is related to China and Chinese people's national dignity and pride. Li Yi is right. China's response is not strong enough. To deal with bandit kidnapping, we need to use more bandit means to deal with bandits, etc. All the comments below this one express the same idea. I must tell everyone that Li Yi's speech or people like Li Yi are not alone in China. In addition to the increasingly powerful propaganda campaign to try to influence international public opinions, the CCP has begun to spread some particularly evil theories and views through scholars and experts like Li Yi. Some of the more famous ones are Jin Chanrong, Zhang Weiwei, Chen Chuang, and dozens of others. We talked about some of their statements before. Recently, tens of thousands of people died from the man-made floods in Zhengzhou city. We talked about this before. And Jin Chanrong actually claimed that the floods could be a result of a weather weapon attack by the CCP. By the US. Chen Chuang actually said that China had won an unprecedented biological war in 2020 before, and we also discussed his story. So the key point is all these people are the CCP's top advisors, strategists, and they are all referred to as national advisor or national teachers, and they can go to CCP's headquarters in Zhongnanhai to give classes and speeches to CCP's top leaders. So what you just watched in the video is not Li Yi's own thought, but the thought and mentality of the CCP, and can reflect the CCP's current international policy. Didn't Li Yi mention that we need to learn from Chairman Mao's hegemony? And what is Chairman Mao's hegemony? Back in 1957, when the CCP's first generation leader Chairman Mao or Mao Zedong attended the International Communist Conference held in Soviet Union, he said that he was willing to sacrifice half of China's population to fight a nuclear war against the US. Several communist countries in Eastern Europe were so shocked and scared to death by such a statement. So that is the Chairman Mao's hegemony Li Yi just was talking about, and that is also the wolf warrant diplomacy the CCP has been practicing recently. So now you tell me, who is the biggest terrorist? Why did the Taliban turn to the CCP? Because they know that the CCP is the biggest terrorist group in the world. So the Taliban, the CCP, is announcing to the world that the international terrorist organization led by the CCP has officially declared war on the West. So when I read the news that the US is now talking with the CCP about affairs in Afghanistan, I couldn't help writing this. Again, what I predicted in my last show was realized in the real world. 911 gave the CCP decades of time to become the number 2 economy. Now, the US has to seek the CCP's cooperation again to fight against the terrorism. But who is the biggest terrorist? In January this year, the CCP's Foreign Minister Wang visited Burma and met with Burma's Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Force Min Aung Hlaing. Then 3 weeks later, a military coup happened, and the democratically elected government was overthrown. Large numbers of people got killed in the protests. And then on July 28th, Wang Yi received Taliban leaders in China, and only about 20 days later, Taliban took over Afghanistan again, and the US suffered significant losses. So that is the picture the CCP is painting for the world. Will the US be dragged back to the swamp of fighting an endless war again with terrorism and ignore and even cooperate with the biggest terrorists in order to do this? We really need to think very, very hard about this. Now, let's talk briefly about issues related to Vikki Zhao, a movie star Li Yi mentioned in his video. Basically, Vikki Zhao is a top-level star in China. She played the role of a very lovely princess of the Qing dynasty in a TV drama series about more than 20 years ago, and became very, very famous after that. I dare say that almost everybody in China knows her, and that's her level of popularity. Anyway, since August 26, all her movies, TV dramas, including movies she directed, have been taken down from everywhere in China. Even her name was deleted from the introduction page of the movies she played. If you search with her name in Chinese, you get no results. It looks like the CCP wanted to have her entirely disappear, not only from the real world, but also from the internet. Another A-list movie star Zeng Chuang was also targeted and fined 300 million yuan or 46 million US dollars for tax evasion. On August 27, the CCP's Cyberspace Administration issued a notice saying that the chaotic situation in the entertainment industry and fan communities need to be further addressed. 10 measures are going to be adopted, including forbidding people to compile celebrity ranking lists, adjusting ranking rules, strictly regulating star agencies, regulating fan groups, forbidding fans of different stars to fight among one another, forbidding selling products to fans, forbidding fans to support their stars, etc. A while ago, after Canadian movie star Wu Yifan, or Carrie Wu, was arrested for alleged rape, his fans showed up at the detention center, where he was detained, holding big signs with his name on it to show their support and love for him. Some of his fans even said on the internet that our dear Wu has 50 million fans and the CCP has only 5 million police. We are 10 times more than the police. How about we break into the detention center and rescue our staff from there? Immediately, Wu Yifan's social media account was closed. As a result, his 50 million strong fans have nowhere to meet each other, let alone organize themselves to rescue their beloved stars. So, after Vikki Zhao was cracked down upon, people have been making all sorts of speculations regarding why this suddenly happened to such a top star. Many of her fellow big stars felt very much frightened and started to delete records of them being close friends with her. Some people say Vikki Zhao was targeted because of her close relationship with Jack Ma, as Jack Ma was right now being suppressed. Some say it was because she once insulted China by wearing a dress that had a Japanese flag on it. Some say it was because of the failed attempt of her husband and herself trying to borrow 3 million yuan to acquire a big company and get involved in the capital market, etc. But I agree with two popular Chinese commentators Simon Gao and Wen Zhao. They also are my good friends. Actually, Simon Gao has an English channel called Zooming In. No, not this one. Another picture. Zooming In with Simon Gao. Subscribe to her channel if you haven't. So, the affair surrounding Vikki Zhao and other movie stars is about Xi Jinping's big picture for China, and it's about competing for influence, which is also a form of power. Simon Gao said it has become very clear that Xi Jinping wants to build a North Korea-style China, a real communism that is in line with Marxism. Right now, there are about 100 million internet users in China. That is about 70% of the entire population. Let's suppose that China still has 1.4 billion people, which is questionable. Anyway, with so many internet users, big business opportunities occur. Whoever can attract many people can not only earn big money, but also big influence. Is in CCP's China, how can this be allowed? Also, people have only one heart. If you love a movie star, you don't have time to love the CCP. So that's why movie stars like Vikki Zhao and Zeng Chuang were targeted. People say another round of cultural revolution has already started. Xi Jinping is dead set on taking China back to Mao's time. I heard many stars were terrified by what happened to Zhao, and no one knows when this will happen to themselves as well. So there are some rumors today that many other movie stars were also arrested. So we can say that is another form of CCP's terror. Yesterday, I saw a video showing 2 Taliban soldiers holding guns and watching over the TV host, talking about how Afghan people should not be afraid. I really wanted to laugh and tweeted, in this sense, the Taliban has a long way to go to learn from its big brother CCP. The CCP won't let you see guns. On the contrary, the CCP's hosts happily sing the praise of the CCP. Even when people are forced to make TV confessions, you still won't see the guns on TV. The CCP never worries that you will say something improper on TV, as all your family members, the livelihood of all your family members are all in the CCP's hands. CCP looks much civilized and much better. And someone left a comment saying, Taliban too young, too naive. Yes, in this sense, the CCP is not only the biggest terrorist, but also the most mature terrorist. The Taliban are too young, too naive. In just a few days, we have all seen the massive crowds trying to flee at the Kabul airport. People falling to their deaths from planes, desperate parents throwing their babies over barbed wire to the US military, people expressing great fear of the Taliban, etc. And then 13 US soldiers died, not in combat with the enemy, but on the airfield where they were about to retreat. Another extremist terrorist group, ISIS-K, was responsible for the hundreds of deaths. Why are people so afraid of the Taliban? Because the Taliban is an evil organization that brutally persecutes the Afghan people because of their extreme beliefs. The Afghan people came to know their brutality more than 20 years. The terrorist attack at Kabul airport once again provides the clearest illustration of these terrorists. As we focus on one of the most tragic scenes of human society in Afghanistan, there is a commonplace news story in China that gives us an idea of another kind of human rights disaster and state terror. On August 26, in Yangzhou City in China, one CCP virus or COVID-19 case was found. This infected person had been tested 10 times before that and tested positive for the 11th time on August 25th. Then, all the residents of the apartment where the infected person lived were forcibly removed from their homes and taken by bus to a location to be centrally quarantined. You can see from the video that the apartment buildings in that area are all very, very high. Actually, many apartment buildings in China are all like that. The number of people living in one apartment building is actually could be in hundreds to thousands of numbers. One apartment building is basically a community. We also know that in China there is almost no social welfare protection, and the so-called centralized quarantine means that these people's lives, work, and studies are suddenly interrupted without warning. They will not be compensated and perhaps not even given time to prepare for basic necessities. One resident complained on the internet that I don't even have time or opportunity to buy formula for my children. In fact, some of the quarantine sites are worse than prisons in the civilized society. Look at this quarantine site in Xishuangbanna, Yunnan, China. Once you sent there, these people must be quarantined for at least 3 weeks at their own expenses. The quarantine fee is 300 yuan or $46 per day, and this not including medicine testing and other charges. Now, yeah, this is another quarantine site. We're not sure when and where, but you can see the condition is appalling. So the problem is those people who are quarantined are completely innocent. They didn't even know that one of their neighbors had tested positive for the CCP virus. Another problem is this does not happen only once. This kind of brutality happens almost every day and every hour in China. And this brutality is not the worst of all the brutalities that have occurred in China. We all know that in China, lockdown can mean you are really locked up inside your home. The CCP used wooden boards to nail the doors of people's homes and welded irons to the doors and buildings of apartments. This is more brutal than prison and has become almost a standard practice for the CCP for over a year. Up to now, we still don't know how many people died in Wuhan, but we do know that many died not from the virus, but from being starved to death at home. This video shows that the entire family died inside the home after being locked up for several days. So a whole family died after several days of being locked inside their home. Such tragedies were, as usual, tightly covered up by the CCP. So the Taliban and the Islamic State terrorists have made the international community feel that they are evil organizations against humanity because of their extremist and brutal persecution and killing of ordinary people. This is indeed the case. However, while the Taliban and Islamic State terrorists can harm hundreds of thousands of people, the CCP has over 1 billion Chinese people, aka Chinese slaves and hostage, in its hands. Over 80 million Chinese people have been killed by the CCP in the past 7 decades. While Afghan people could gather at the airport and flee with the help of the US and the West, people in China have nowhere to escape, as no country in the world can accept so many refugees. Once again, who is the biggest terrorist in the world? Okay, that's all for today. Please make sure you like my videos, subscribe to and share my channel. Now, let's see if there are any questions or comments. Seems we don't have questions. And there's a comment from Pink Chachi. This is very informative. I enjoy watching to get knowledge about this topic. Thank you. And there's another comment from Sai Cruz. Taliban and the CCP, they deserve each other. Yes, probably. And Sai Cruz says ISIS is coming in place too. Very radical and it's brutality. Yes. And CF now says hold the line. Yes. And then Cycro says ISIS killed 20,000 fighters released into Afghanistan, a bunch of Taliban amongst ISIS, even there have a lot of numbers of disagreement. Still, CCP is not part of the Muslim Brothers. And Kong Banner says, I will show you Chinese manners. So this is from Sai Cruz. Again, my heart condolences go to the families of the brave American soldiers. R.I.P. Yes. I think it is really very, very sad that we had to lose so many brave soldiers, not only in the battleground, but when they were about to return home. And there's another one from Moonwalker. Hello, Jennifer. It seems that China is destroying all of its soft power that makes it appealing on the world stage. Don't you think this is counterintuitive? Yes. And then Pink Chechi asks, is China more threatful than Afghanistan? I think yes, in a way, because China now is the #2 economy in the world. If it wants to do harm, actually it has already done such a great harm, like cover up the COVID-19 or CCP virus pandemic and let it spread the world. We have never lost so many lives in one kind of human disaster and have so many people involved. I think this kind of harm and damage done to the world is much worse, and it is still going on, and it has so much more potential to do greater harm if we don't became aware of its harm. So, okay, basically it seems that we've answered all the questions. Yes, I think for normal people, we can hardly understand the CCP's mentality because its mentality is not the same as normal human being. But from all the signs that we talked about recently, Xi Jinping is really taking China back into Mao's time, and it seems he believed he needs to fight against the CCP and promote the CCP's model, and somehow he believes he can achieve this by adopting CCP's model and by having tight control over China. He already has the power to fight the West. He somehow was convinced that the West is declining while China is rising, especially after the pandemic. So I think he might believe he has some kind of opportunity to fight against the CCP and to have his CCP governance model to not only be adopted in China but adopted by the entire world. It seems to many people now that is his big plan in his mind, and it seems from all these things he has been doing recently, he's taking China to that kind of route, and I think the outside world really needs to pay attention to this. Okay, it seems we've addressed all the questions. Have you heard about, oh, there's another one. Okay, so I think that's about all we have today. Okay, thank you very much for watching this show, and I'll see you on Thursday.